Welcome. This is 80 Unplugged, a podcast dedicated to songwriters. Our goal is to feature artists from all different parts of their musical journey and dive into the story behind their songs and their creative process. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Bedford PA's own poet laureate, an award-winning writer with a master's degree in creative writing. He's played hundreds of shows across America. It's Coltt Winter Lepley.
Hello.
Hello. How are you today, Coltt?
Great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm happy to have you on the show.
Happy to be here.
Today, Coltt will sing an original song, and then we'll talk about it.
I see faces in the trees, I wonder if they'll follow me. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. Well, I hear voices on the wind, I wonder if she'll call again. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. I hear footsteps on the stairs, I swear that there's someone there. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. Well, I thought I saw you standing in the door, but I blinked my eyes and you're gone once more. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. Well, it's a ghost of Emmaline Bryn, I hope I don't see her again. Hi-ho, stay away, poor old Emmaline Bryn, poor old Emmaline Bryn. Well, she fell into a grain silo, and oh, she screamed, but she died real slow. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. And I admit I pushed her in, and I cry at night for Emmaline Bryn. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. Well, I hear her moaning in the rain, her body's there with the mice and grain. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. She's laying there all alone, there's nothing left but hair and bone. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. Well, it's a ghost of Emmaline Bryn, I hope I don't see her again. Hi-ho, stay away, poor old Emmaline Bryn, poor old Emmaline Bryn. Spirit dances on the lawn, I look out and her face is gone. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. Shadows darken when she's near, cry out in your lonesome fear. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. Scariest sight you ever saw, to see her crawling up your wall. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. Go with a friend to the willow tree, if she sees you there she'll follow thee. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. Well, it's a ghost of Emmaline Bryn, I hope I don't see her again. Hi-ho, stay away, poor old Emmaline Bryn. Well, it's a ghost of Emmaline Bryn, I hope I don't see her again. Hi-ho, stay away, poor old Emmaline Bryn, poor old Emmaline Bryn.
That was amazing. What was that song called?
Thank you. That was called The Ghost of Emmaline Bryn.
That was a really great performance. I really appreciate that. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Sure. Today I brought my 1966 Gibson LG one. It's ladder braced for anybody out there that's into the tech of that. But it's a super cool guitar. It was originally in the Bedford banjo shop, and I saved a bunch of money to buy it. And I walked in to buy it, and it wasn't there anymore. And I was super disappointed. And Mike was the shop owner, and he said, hey, we just sold that to a lady in New Jersey, sent it out today. So I was bummed, right? So I was kind of kicking around looking for other guitars, and like 2 months went by, and it showed back up, and the lady didn't like it. So I liked it, so I decided it was time to pull trig on it. But it's got a lot of problems, so do I. It needs a neck reset in the best way. It's got a hole in the back that somebody really shoddily fixed. I think somebody used it as a boat paddle once.
Oh.
And but it's super cool. And I have like these little trinkets on the end that were given to me by Dave Stifler, who worked for the Smithsonian Folkways label back in the day. And I have it in my notes here because I don't want to screw it up. He worked in Honduras, Nicaragua, and El Salvador.
Wow.
So it's kind of cool to have like the Smithsonian Folkways really, influenced me a lot in my career. So it's cool to have that little connection.
A piece of history.
Yeah, I think so.
I know you have a long history with writing. Can you talk about, like, sentimentally, how you're attached to it and how young you were when you started?
So both of my loves of, art are probably anchored in history and writing. And my family, my dad is a plumber. He has a sole proprietorship. We couldn't get away for long vacations usually, and we're really lucky to have a lot of battlefields right around here. So a lot of my early vacations were to Gettysburg and Antietam and Harper's Ferry, and kind of learning the history of like the Civil War. And then I remember like my first time really being interested in writing. My third grade teacher would do these like take-home packets every week, and it was kind of like students were supposed to write like news stories basically. And I tried to have like 7 a week. I tried to do like 1 a day, and it had to be super annoying for her and the other parents to read. But I do remember being like, oh, I have to get this. I have to hit this deadline and get this thing filled up. So I think it was just downhill from there.
You just, you were your own school paper, kind of?
Unfortunately so for everybody else, yeah.
On your website, you talk about your love for classic literature. Like, I wrote some of the authors down that kind of piqued my interest, like Louis L'Amour, Emily Dickinson, Edgar Allan Poe. How did your love of classic literature inspire you as a writer?
Well, I think, I was exposed to that stuff at a very young age. I know in kindergarten, my mom bought me the illustrated Edgar Allan Poe short stories, which are very graphic, right? Like, if anybody's familiar with the short story Hop Frog, it's very graphic. And I think probably in between, like, going to the battlefields and Edgar Allan Poe, Emily Dickinson stuff, it's kind of like morbid curiosity. And I think it just kind of, it all kind of tied together with that and the writing about that. And, I was never super interested, not that I'm not now, but I think if you go to a place like Gettysburg and you hear that there were like, 10,000 people here in this brigade in this situation, like that's all well and good, and we have to know that. But the human element, like the actual human character part of the story's always been more interesting to me, and I think the mass population. And I think the same goes with writing. If it's character based, it's literary, and I kind of hate that term as a writer, but as a songwriter, the character based stuff I think is really interesting, or somebody has like character growth or something like that.
Well, I think I think we could go ahead and get into lyric breakdown because I think that ties beautifully into the song you performed. So what I'm going to do is read the lyrics so that we can put them on the screen.
Okay.
And it's going to be funny to say hi-ho diddle all day.
Yep. I did it knowing you would do this.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay. Verse 1 goes, I see faces in the trees. I wonder if they'll follow me. Hi-ho diddle all day, hi-ho diddle all day. I hear voices in the wind. I wonder if she'll call again. Hi-ho diddle all day, hi-ho diddle all day. I hear footsteps on the stairs. I swear that there's someone there. Hi-ho diddle all day, hi-ho diddle all day. I thought I saw you standing in the door, but I blinked my eyes and you're gone once more. Hi-ho diddle all day, hi-ho diddle all day. That is very mysterious. Can you tell me about those lyrics?
So you don't ever want to give away, I don't think, too much in the front half of the story, right? So I think that's working on the paranoia of what we'll learn about more in the second verse that the character did to have a haunting occur at his residence. But yeah, it's kind of like the uneasiness playing on that, like kind of creepy, uneasy.
Yeah. For the language used in this song and in other songs like Bulia, you are throwing some words at me that I don't know if I pronounced perfectly, but listen.
You nailed it.
I practiced.
Thanks.
Anyway, Bulia, yeah, and this song have this like heirloom folk song quality to them, and hearing you perform a whole set live, you do a lot of historical covers, and these songs fit so seamlessly in with those. How do you get the sound and the feel of these classic folk songs in your own music?
Thank you for that. I think it's just a product of listening to a lot of it. Like I know the hi-ho diddle all day section is I think it's almost directly lifted from an old folk song, but that was a common practice. I know like Gene Ritchie, Woody Guthrie, Townes Van Zandt, they all have syllable lines, basically, right? And I think a lot of it was because it was just, it gave you a touchstone to remember the other lyrics. And I think it probably has a connection to work songs and things like that. But I think there's beauty in the limitations that you have. And I think the folk music genre, it's kind of like country music in the way that it's usually not that many chords. There's usually a kind of a story structure, and there's the limitations they kind of help you as a writer to work within a fence, if that makes sense. And I just think it's cool to add your own page to the history book,
Yeah, that's awesome. It made me think of in the form you'd mentioned Our Mother the Mountain. And I actually didn't realize that those were just syllables when he says Lorelei. I thought it was the lady's name.
Yeah.
And then I kind of I looked into the lyrics because he had mentioned it. And I was like, oh, those aren't words.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was Lorelei, like a name.
Like a Gilmore Girls connection.
Yeah, there it is. But I also think with these, it gives people a touch point to sing along with you.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you don't have to, it's an earworm, and it's like naturally an earworm, You're not doing any heavy lifting to
memorize.
I don't say it's a cop-out, but like it is kind of a nice, it's just a literary device to get people to key in,
To go on to the chorus goes, well, it's the ghost of Emmaline Bryn.
Bryn. It's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. ASMR channel.
We'll get really close to the microphone. We'll go into the chorus. The chorus goes, well, it's the ghost of Emmaline Bryn. I hope I don't see her again. Hi-ho, stay away. Poor old Emmaline Bryn. Poor old Emmaline Bryn. Where did you get this name from?
So, kind of circling back to the battlefield stuff, there's a cemetery on the Antietam battlefield in Sharpsburg, Maryland, and it's called the Mumma Cemetery, Mumma, I think. And I've done this before in like short stories and other things. If there's a really interesting historical name on a headstone that kind of piques my interest, I'll make a note. I just got a new iPhone today, and I had 4,000 notes, so I just have to comb through those sometimes. But Emmaline and Bryn were both separate first names, and I just thought they were super interesting. And I think that was 3 years before I wrote the song. I had it I wanted to use that, So I'm always trying to take a moment when I can for the stuff that's pretty interesting. People would think that's. And even if they don't, I do. And that's who I'm writing matters. For anyway. Yeah. So.
Do you know that Eleanor Rigby was taken off a grave?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I thought you were just trying to be a Beatle.
John Lennon must have heard of me.
Yeah. There you go. Rip. You did it first. So in your catalog of songs, you have songs that seem inspired by your own life, like City Living and Crack Cocaine, while you also have songs like this, where you've created a story with characters. What goes into developing a character?
So I think the process for me is similar character-wise for songs or short stories or even like narrative poetry. I think there's got to be, for it to be literary, whatever that really means, I think there's got to be a character change. I think the story has to be coherent and complete. And I think the character has to have either they have to do something or be something interesting, or they have to be totally mundane, and you have to pull the interesting out, And I don't know if there's like a timeline of how that works, but I just think you have to have the human element that people recognize, like anything that people can draw from, if they can see themselves in that, or somebody they know, or you just got to pull on the people's heartstrings, to get them to lock into something. But, I love country music, and I love old-time, tropey country music. But, you can only, in my opinion, do so many songs about trucks and knee-high white cowboy boots and things like that. And then it's like, okay, that character's probably been beaten to death, so let's do something else. And I think we kind of had a ditch of a time where we didn't have sailors and cowboys and things, and I'm happy to bring those tropes back in a way.
That's actually what caught my eye when I read the Louis L'Amour reference. I grew up, my mom reading those on road trips, and I'm like, that's Bandito right there, cool. Your song Bandito. So I think it's cool that you kind of tap into an older characters in a way, but classics.
Yeah, I think it's just important to the story of Americana, and just to keep those things alive, to keep them fresh. I think we still have the cowboy trope today, but it's just maybe a little different. We're not gunslinging on the streets anymore, and now maybe you're doing like races or something, or you're, I don't know, like a bullfighter or something. That's pretty much an actual cowboy, though. There's not a lot of cowboys walking around West Central PA.
Just like 3.
3?
Yeah.
Yeah, there might be 3 or 4. Yeah. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
3.
I counted them this morning.
A lot of hats walking around.
Yeah. Well, you can't judge a person by their hat.
No, you can't.
So.
What is it? All hat, no cowboy?
I like that. Yeah. I'm going to say that.
That's not an original quote. I don't want any cowboys out there to.
Damn it.
Get offended.
Well, you've offended me. So.
Get in line.
Get in line. Oh, get in line. That's great. All right. So now we'll go into the second verse. Okay. The second verse goes, well, she fell into a grain silo, and oh, she screamed, but she died real slow. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. And I admit I pushed her in, and I cry at night for Emmaline Bryn. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. I hear her moaning in the rain, her body's there with the mice and grain. Hi-ho, deedle all day, hi-ho, deedle all day. She lyin' there all alone. There's nothing left but hair and bone. Hi-ho, deedle all day. Hi-ho, deedle all day. So you murdered her.
Yep. Well, I didn't. The character did.
The character
right?
did.
I haven't murdered anybody. But anyway.
I'm going to let you sit on that.
No, I mean, this is the big reveal, right? So up to this point, it's like a ghost story, strictly. And here it's revealed that it's also a murder ballad. And murder ballads have, a vast history in folk music and country music and bluegrass. And I wanted to have my own. And in the third verse, we'll talk about how I've kind of like modernized it a little bit. But I wanted to have my own murder ballad. I got songs about cowboys and sailors, and you got to have a
Toilet wizards.
You got to have a murder ballad in there.
Yeah.
People die a lot in my songs.
you got a range.
Yeah.
Well, there's a popular trope in folk music of women drowning, but in here it's kind of different because of the way she drowns. It's not in water. Can you talk about what made you do that?
Sure. I mean, a lot of the old time murder ballads, like Banks of the Ohio is one that I even perform that sometimes with the side note of what it is and everything. But I wanted her to die a Pennsylvania death, and anywhere that has farmland. I don't know how relevant it is to like the public knowledge, but there's like over a dozen people a year that they fall into these grain silos and they essentially drown and suffocate, and it's got to be like a horrible way to go, right? And so I didn't have to do a whole lot of heavy lifting to write that line because it's pretty terrible anyway. But my mom worked for Penn State Extension Office, and I remember maybe, I don't know, whenever I wrote this, probably a year before I wrote it, they had a class on how to get out if you fall into a grain silo. And I thought, man, that's horrible and unique to our area, and I'd love to use that to murder a character. So that's what we did.
That's what you did. So you take a lot of influence from your area. It's kind of a priority to you, highlighting Pennsylvania and the stories and the people from there. Mm-hmm. I thought that would just lead you in.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm trying not to only ask questions.
Oh, my goodness. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's my, again, it's my first time in front of a camera. So. Not in front of a camera. We've done 3 episodes. Anyway, that seems like something very important to you to highlight Pennsylvania and the stories from there.
So I think places like Nashville and Kentucky and West Virginia, a lot of places where, these folklore stories have walked out of, or popular music about these subjects have walked out of. They had the right people at the right time, and the things fell in line. But I've said this on other, interviews and podcasts and stuff. Our mountains are just the same. They're the same Appalachian Mountains, Allegheny Mountains. And we have very similar folklore. We have great ghost stories. And, Pennsylvania historically had like 4 times the amount of witches that Massachusetts had, but we didn't market that, we just have a lot of really important history and people and stories here. And I love that people, write about other places, and I do too. But we just need to remember how important, where we're from is. And I don't know, Philadelphia lawyer, like we talked earlier, I don't really consider Philadelphia that much of Pennsylvania. But, we just got a lot of cool things here, and I think we should talk more about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that would lead us into the third verse. And the third verse goes, her spirit dances on the lawn. I look out and her face is gone. Hi-ho, deedle all day. Hi-ho, deedle all day. Shadows darken when she's near. Cry out in your lonesome fear. Hi-ho, deedle all day. Hi-ho, deedle all day. Scariest sight you've ever saw, to see her crawling up the wall. Hi-ho, deedle all day. Hi-ho, deedle all day. Go with a friend to the willow tree. If she sees you there, then she'll follow thee. Hi-ho, deedle all day. Hi-ho, deedle all day.
Yep.
more spooky lines.
Yeah. So I think this is where I wanted to take the opportunity to do this last third verse kind of does a lot of heavy lifting. I wanted to acknowledge that women are treated badly in murder ballads, and I wanted to give the murdered party agency. So she's haunting her murderer, and making his life terrible, and he's paranoid and he's worried about seeing her, and so I wanted to do that, and in similar vein to some modern ones like Gillian Welch and David Rawlings, Caleb Meyer. The Chicks have like Goodbye Earl, and but there's a great song by Dirk Powell who it's called I Ain't Playing Pretty Polly Anymore. Basically, it's a song about acknowledging that murder ballads are problematic, and I think it's a great point. I do think they still have a place, and I think folks like Colder Wall has Kate McCannon, which is just a traditional, flat-out murder ballad, and I think there's good ways to deliver those. But for me, I wanted to give the lady some agency and get him back a little bit, and I think that's where we landed.
I find it interesting in country music and in folk songs that there's so many, like the banks in the Ohio. Mm-hmm. Why did he kill her? Just because she would marry him, right?
Yeah.
From what I understand, that's it, right?
Well, and I think you have to consider, like, not to get like super into the political nature of it, but like, at the time, women, they weren't seen as equal in society, and to bend a knee to the man that's what women did, and I
think it's the guy that gets down on his knee to propose.
Well, yeah. That's like the one time, right?
That's the one time.
Wow, damn it. What was the
I'm so sorry.
No, keep that though. Keep that though, please.
So women, you were talking about women not having or not being seen as equals and having to bend a knee.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I think you just have to consider the context of the time. Women were not seen as equals. And frankly, I think in a lot of ways it was kind of a propaganda tool of like to keep women in line. This is one of dozens of songs where if the woman doesn't listen to the man's request, he just offs her, which is, we're looking back now at a modern context, it's almost like not funny, but it's just funny to think that's what people would do.
Because there's so many of them.
Yeah,
of the songs.
Right. But and I think a lot of them though, like Polly Williams is a real life example. She's a Pennsylvania, folk tale, but it's a true story. She, I think it was the White Rocks, followed this rich young man, and people said he was to propose or something, and she didn't want to, so he pushed her off the rocks. So I don't want to say that was par for the course because it wasn't, but it was prevalent. People were doing that.
It was around enough that there are multiple stories that are exactly like that.
And what a horrible thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the only thing we can do now is to acknowledge that's obviously not the correct course of action.
Yeah.
Right? If you get rejected, you just gotta figure that out for yourself. But I think it's a good. I have another song called "The Witch," and it's just women with agency getting back at the guy, And obviously, I am a guy, but I think it's just important to have those acknowledgments.
I think you don't have to be a part of the oppressed people group to want to speak out against it or whatnot.
And I think that's the nature of folk music, I mean, obviously not those songs, the murder ballads, but you gotta, it's actually a good thing to speak up for the weak in society and the people that, the underprivileged and the oppressed, and that's our duty,
Yeah, that's beautiful. I like that a lot.
Thanks.
Well, I have another question. Kind of, you kind of talked about it a little bit in the last section about being influenced or being interested in our area's paranormal legends and witch folklore. Can you talk about that some more?
So I remember the first time I knew I wanted to be a storyteller was after I heard the story of the lost children of the Alleghenies. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
So it happened it's Bedford County, happened in Blue Knob State Park now, it's Blue Knob State Park. And, it's a long story, but basically these two kids wandered off in the woods. It was the biggest manhunt in history, in U.S. history at the time. They didn't find the kids until they had passed away. And there's some paranormal element to it. Apparently, Jacob Dybert was his name. Had a dream exactly where the kids were supposed to be. They went there and found them.
Wow.
They had passed. But I remember hearing that for the first time. It was around a campfire. It's all the ways that it should be. I probably had a s'more or something. And I was like, man, that was, whatever this is, I want to do something with this in my life. And I love ghost stories. We have a lot here, like the White Lady of Wapsie and, Bedford County's got a lot. We have like the Whiskey Rebellion thing, and George Washington slept there one time, and we really love to push that. But
That's
yeah,
great.
I love the folklore. And like I mentioned earlier, Pennsylvania had huge population of faith healers, and it was a lot of single women who were misunderstood by the general consensus of society. And William Penn, who was very progressive for the time for making this decision, said the Commonwealth will not persecute a witch because we have freedom of religion or lack thereof or whatever, and we're not gonna bring these women to trial. They didn't do anything wrong. I think that particular trial was because she had been accused of making the neighbor's milk cow go dry, right? So Massachusetts did, and now they get millions of dollars a year in tourism, and we did not, and we don't. So,
Well, that's interesting. I actually didn't know we had such like a history with witches in this state at all.
Yeah, so like my banner, for example, that's a hex sign, and not hex like a witch hex, but just a lot of the folklore and like the magic that comes from the Pennsylvania Dutch and the Germanic people who moved here. They did a lot of little funny things, and even now, if that would be done, I think people would criticize those folks or look at them a little sideways and think, what do they got going on over there? But it's just like anything. People don't step on a crack or lift their feet over railroad crossings. Everybody does a little bit of that, and why not? I mean, I need all the luck I can get. So,
do you have any personal like ghost stories or ghost encounter kind of things, or like just real creepy stories?
So I grew up in a haunted house.
Okay.
It's a pre-Civil War farmhouse. And, there's all kinds of stories. Supposedly, the guy that haunts our house is George, who's one of the farm owners. And when my parents bought the place, they bought it off a gentleman named Kenny, and they had just signed the papers, everything cleared. And he said, oh, by the way, George comes down the chimney every once in a while, but he won't bother you. Don't worry about it. And then he walked out.
What?
But George, yeah. So, and it's crazy. We have, we all, like, I'm an only child, so it was always my mom, dad, and myself. And we all, like, have corroborating stories that all three of us saw at the same time or heard at the same time. And I'm never, like, quick to say it was a ghost, but it's always, like, if you get to the point where you can't logically explain or debunk what happened, it's like, what happened?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not here to say it's a ghost, but pretty
You're
wild.
not here to not
I'm not
say
here to
it.
not. That's a very non-committal answer, but I'm going to stick to it.
I have a great story about this building.
This is a interesting building.
It's a very old building, and legend goes, not sure if it's true.
Yeah.
Well, here's fact first. There's a kind of a building up there that this huge part was an extension on.
Okay.
Well, apparently before they had built that building, which was the old elementary school. Well, that was the old elementary school.
Yeah.
There was like a sawmill or something, and a little girl died, and like 120 years ago or something crazy like that. Well, this building I have worked in since I was like very young, like long nights of just, making it not look like a school building. And this one night I was like 15 and my younger brother and I were here just like scraping the floor, cleaning something. And my dad had just went off. And they ripped out all of the phones from because these were classrooms, all the phones from the walls. And we're walking around, goofing off or something, and we started to hear a phone ring. And we go into the room, there's no phone. So we're like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. Like, this is a ghost. It's the ghost. My dad's like, I don't know why that rings. I must have it just does it every once in a while, like cross the wires. But there for like an hour, I thought we were getting haunted. Yeah. So it was pretty great.
I think that's the nature of who we are. We're always interested in what happens after and justifying and guessing what happens. And that's the meat of being a person, to have ghost stories and just the great mystery, I guess. But that's great. Yeah, we're gonna have to walk the halls after this now.
Nothing rings anymore. We're welcome to. You're welcome to walk around.
The phone's dry, huh?
Yeah, all the wires I think got ripped out. Sure. They just started with the phones, but yeah, I don't know. It was freaky at the time.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I was just walking to the bathroom and back through the gym. It's like, oh man, pretty spooky vibe.
Pretty spooky. Yeah, I mean, I'm here a lot anymore, so it's not spooky to me anymore. But I definitely do remember, especially when it was more school-like. Mm-hmm. Like when it actually, it still looks, it's always going to look like a school, but it looks less and less like it. This was actually the music room. That's why there's like staffs. But yeah, I know it gets some people real bad.
Yeah, I mean, schools are creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not only a writer, but you're a reader. What books have you been reading lately?
Yeah, I think to be good at one, I think one informs the other. Well, I've had Blood Meridian on my coffee table for 2 years, and if you've ever read Cormac McCarthy, it's like very dense. I think it's an adjustment period to get to. So I read sections of that. And I have been for a while. I just reread Walden again from Henry David Thoreau, which I hadn't read since I lived in New England. What else did I read? Kevin Kutz, who builds his own fiddles and is a painter from Bedford. He's kind of a mentor of mine in some ways. He just gave me a picture book of Appalachian musicians and things. It's got like Gene Ritchie and Doc Watson and I don't know, Flatt and Scruggs and Joan Baez, I think, is in there, which maybe doesn't fit with the other three, but you gotta consume the media to make more, I think,
I've actually heard you, or maybe read, you reference what'd you say, the opposite of apprentice?
Mentor.
What does that mean to have a mentor?
Well, to be clear, Kevin, I don't take like formal lessons or anything from Kevin. Maybe more life lessons, but he shares a lot of really cool music and art with me, and we both have similar interest. And I met Kevin when I was like 3 years old, and he had an art gallery opening. And there's a painting that he had done of the Bedford Springs Mill. It had a motorcycle going by. And I liked motorcycles like every 3-year-old does. And I think I said something like, oh, what kind of motorcycle is that? And he said, I don't know. I heard a motorcycle in the distance, and I painted it in there. And he said something along the lines of, to make art, you don't have to experience it to make it. And that always stuck with me. That's
beautiful, yeah.
And I told him that like 2 years ago. And he'd actually been waiting on a guy that had ran past every day, and he was going to paint him. And it was David Bradley who wrote The Chaney'sville Incident, which is a Penn Faulkner Award winner from Bedford, which is another whole thing. But I just always thought that was so interesting. Like, you don't have to be a sailor or a cowboy or a murderer to write about those things. And I think that's what we do. You got to make beautiful. It up, Beautiful.
That is awesome. I love that.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He writes a lot of his own stuff
Yeah.
too. Yeah, Bedford's got like a really cool little haven of great artists.
I would love for you to talk about how you do community workshops.
Sure. So, real quick, we have participants from 8 to 85. We have over 100 on the mailing list. And it's just a community workshop. You can bring, if you're a new writer, you're a poet, you're an author, whatever you want to bring, nonfiction. And you bring it out, and we go over it. And it's kind of like an Iowa-style workshop that I experienced in grad school. And it's for people that are elderly or maybe want to get into that in college, or people that will never be able to afford it. And why shouldn't they have the same opportunity, you know? So, yeah. It's a labor of love.
Beautiful. That's awesome. I loved reading that. I'm like, you're really giving back to the community that kind of inspires you.
Yeah, you have to.
Well, Coltt, you have been such an interesting guest to have on the podcast.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you sharing your time, experience, and expertise and thoughts with us. I would love for you to talk about your album coming out. Sure. and everything that goes along with that.
Yeah, Al Torrance at Music Garden Studios. It's Beaver County, north of Pittsburgh. Produced it. That's where we recorded the album, and it's the Allegheny High, which is Charles Wesley Godwin's the band that supports his live stuff, and recorded his albums as well. And so super lucky to have that opportunity, and those guys were great. Specifically, we had Al, Nate, Joe, and Amico, and then two of my friends, local Pittsburgh musicians, Alan Jetto and Justin Long. And that was pretty much the team we assembled. It was like 4 days collectively.
Wow, 4 days.
It was like 4 or 5 days, and it was spread out over the course of like a year because it's hard to get our schedules to line up because they tour and I play every weekend. And a cool story about that is we went in on a Monday and recorded my stuff, and Al was like, "Hey man, we gotta shut this down." It was like 10 o'clock. He said, "We have a bus call for Tennessee." I said, "Oh, cool. Where are you guys at?" He said, "Oh, we're at the Grand Ole Opry tomorrow." I was like, "Oh, cool."
He's like, "Can I come?"
And he's like, "Where are you at this weekend?" I was like, "Who cares, man? You know, give me a break." But no, those guys were great, and it was really special for them to want to learn the songs and bring their expertise. And I'm really really excited for everybody to hear it. We have another single out May 9th. It'll be Crack Cocaine.
Oh.
And the entire thing's out July 11th, and we'll have an album release show in Pittsburgh for that.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, well, can you talk about some of your other upcoming shows as well?
So I have a show May 9th at Mr. Roboto in Pittsburgh with a number of folks, and it's like anti-drug use, like, to call attention to, people that struggle with addiction, right? That'll be a cool show. July 27th, later that month, after the album release, I'll be at Pine Grove Hall with Anna Pearl Belinda, and that'll be super cool. I have shows every weekend, multiple shows every weekend, probably until I die. So
until you
just
die.
People can go to the website and check that out, or any of the socials, and see my schedule, and then they'll still reach out and say, "We didn't know you were here this weekend," and I'll say, "I understand. You got to check any of the 7 places it is located."
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that note, we will have all of Coltt's links in our descriptions, and also on our blog on our website. So you have no excuse to not make it to Coltt shows.
And did you include my criminal record and OnlyFans links?
I was gonna leave those off.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
That's a joke. That's a joke, folks. I don't have an OnlyFans.
I did put a background check up on the website so
Thank
people
goodness.
can see your see what
my
you
extensive
have
criminal
done.
history.
Yeah.
It's good to get that out.
Yeah.
Get that out early.
So we're gonna cancel them now, but not really. Bring it back a little bit.
Yeah, you got off the rails.
Got off the rails. Yes. Right now you have Bandito out, and you can find that on all the streaming services ever. And what did you say? July 9th is the next one?
May 9th
May
is the
9th.
next one. And then we're going to do another single release. And then the entire album will come out July 11th.
That'll be awesome.
Yep.
So we'll be marking our calendars.
Great, please.
I'm waiting for it. When can we pre-order your album? Do you know yet?
So I just talked to Hellbender Vinyl, which is pressing it out of Pittsburgh. Super cool to have them do it. I think it'll be later this month. I think.
Perfect.
Now, I will tell people, if you want to get locked in to that early one, I have a newsletter on my website at the bottom. It's called The Hoot Nanny. I will not spam your email accounts. Probably, I think I send out like one thing quarterly, so 4 things a year. But I'm going to send out the pre-order link to those folks first, because that's like a lot of friends and family, and I want the OGs to have their opportunity to get it. We're only doing 200 first pressing, so I expect to order more if those go, but I want people that want it to get it. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Again, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciated you coming and performing and whatnot. And thank you for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please follow us. You can find us on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. For more information about our guest, our goals, or to be a guest on this podcast, you can visit 80unplugged.com.